You know, I love me a good tier list. I love tier lists. I love them almost as much as I love top 10 lists, and you know how much I love top 10 lists. Today we'll be doing a tier list of the Scarlet and Violet Pokemon card sets that have come out. I believe there have been 12 total that have come out in the Scarlet and Violet era, so I think that's enough to constitute a tier list. So in today's list, we will be arranging these sets based on the chase, based on the popularity, the chase cards within these sets, and also my perceived investment opportunity in these sets based on the popularity and the chase cards. If I put a set in the bottom tier in this video that you are a fan of, it's nothing personal. Having gone through all these cards in preparation for this video, I have deemed that this is the best time ever to be a Pokemon card collector. There are so many fantastic illustrations and concepts in each of these sets. It's really, Pokemon is really in its prime. So it's not that the low tier sets on this list are bad sets or have bad cards. I just think that they're the most lackluster and don't have the best chase card. So let's get started on the tier list for the Scarlet and Violet era. I am on tiermaker.com right now, and I don't believe that we need 5 different tiers for 12 sets, so I'm going to delete the bottom 2 rows here. So we're just going to have the S tier, A tier, and B tier for this video. So let's get started off here. We have Scarlet and Violet base, and I am positive that this is a bottom tier set. In my opinion, one of the most lackluster sets of all time. We'll pull up some cards here, I'll show you. So as you can see, we have the illustration rares, and there's just not really anything pulling us in terms of popularity. Yes, there are some great designed cards here, and is it just me, or can we get rid of these regular full art cards? Like, nobody cares about these bland full art cards. Just like, enough's enough, right? Am I the only one? Like, just give me the illustration card, the illustration rares, the special illustration rares. I'm done with those regular full art cards. But yeah, there's just not a whole lot going on in this set. You have the full art Miriam here. That's the big chase, because the new legendary type Pokemon, the Miraidon and the Koraidon, they don't sell for very much, especially graded. They're just, I think you can get the Koraidon EX as a PSA 10 for like 60 bucks. So yeah, not a whole lot of chase in this set whatsoever, which is why it's going to probably be at the bottom of our list. Up next, we have Paldea Evolved, which is definitely a step up from Scarlet and Violet base. We're going to put that in the A tier for right now. Paldea Evolved just has so much more in it, I feel. So much more chase. Everybody loves the Magikarp card. If we go down further, we have that full art Tyranitar. That's also very nice. It has more of the earlier generation Pokemon pulling it, I feel. Yeah, I gotta go past the full art cards nobody cares about. And although these Pokemon here, the Wuchien, the Chien-Pao, the Chi-Yu EX, even though they're not the most popular, I think they are beautifully designed cards. Of course, you have that full art Iono trainer card. That's very, very expensive. Not a whole lot in terms of popular Pokemon, but there's definitely a lot more chase in it than Scarlet and Violet base had, so we're going to put it in the A tier for right now. The third set from Scarlet and Violet is Obsidian Flames. So before I categorize that, let's take a look at the set. Let me just start by saying that Obsidian Flames has a few sleeper cards that aren't just Charizards. Like this Ninetales right here is actually beautiful and quite pricey as a PSA 10. The same goes for this Scizor. It's actually quite expensive as well. Of course, you got the Charizards. You got a full art Charizard there. This Charizard right here I think is very underrated and also very affordable as a PSA 10. So yeah, I mean, the set identity relies a lot on Charizard, but there are some other pretty good chase cards in this set. So seeing as how it's a Charizard themed set, I'm going to put it barely in front of Paldea Evolved. And I'm probably going to get a lot of slack for that, but investment wise, I think I'm going to put it in front of Paldea Evolved. Scarlet and Violet 151, that's a no-brainer, S tier. I mean, nobody's surprised. It's by far the best Scarlet and Violet set made. For those of you who are unfamiliar with 151, let's take a look here. It's got the original 151 Pokemon, including all the starters, and the illustrations are absolutely phenomenal. There's a Pikachu, there's Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur. The special illustrations are just out of this world. Yeah, this set has recently skyrocketed in value. The sealed product, I think the Elite Trainer boxes are nearing $100 a piece. So yeah, this is definitely an S tier set if I've ever seen one. Up next, we're going to take a look at Paradox Rift. So before I categorize Paradox Rift, let's take a look at the cards. There are definitely a couple of decent hits, like this Groudon. This full art Groudon card is very nice, and it's a little on the expensive side. But if we take a look at the other cards, there's just not a whole lot grabbing me. Like, there's not a whole lot of chase. You got a couple of mid-tier cards like this Iron Valiant. You have the Roaring Moon EX, which is probably the best card in this set. But at the end of the day, there are no big names in Paradox Rift. So if we go back to our tier list, I'm going to have to put Paradox Rift in the B tier, definitely ahead of Scarlet and Violet base. Up next, we have Paldan Fates. Paldan Fates is definitely coming up in the world. I would put it in the high A tier for right now. Let's take a look at some of the cards here. It has an absolute slew of these shiny cards, including Pikachu, Charmander. You have the Snorlax here, so a lot of big name Pokemon within these shinies, and then plus you have these special illustration cards like the Mew EX, the Gardevoir, the Charizard EX that have been absolutely skyrocketing in value. The trainer cards aren't too shabby either, so yeah, if I had to put Paldan Fates on this list, I think it would be a high A tier set. What do you think? Up next, we have Temporal Forces. And I always compare Temporal Forces to Paradox Rift, because I think Paradox Rift came out and then Temporal Forces right after. So I think that Temporal Forces is a better set than Paradox Rift. If we take a look here, we have a couple of pretty notable cards. This Ghastly illustration rare is phenomenal. I think it's like $100+ card as a PSA 10. And then you have all of the ancient legendary beasts, you know, the Entei, Suicune, Raikou. The only problem is they're not called Entei, Suicune, and Raikou. They're Gouging Fire, Raging Bolt, Walking Wake, and the Walking Wake is by far my favorite card in this set. But yeah, I think it just has a little bit more going for it than the Paradox Rift set. So I think I'm going to put the Temporal Forces right behind the Obsidian Flames and right above the Paldea Evolved in the A tier. Up next, we have Twilight Masquerade. When this set was first announced, people shat on it pretty hard, including myself. So I think before we look at the cards here, I think I'm going to put it at the bottom of the A tier, and I'm going to tell you why. If we pull up the Twilight Masquerade set, you have just a couple of cards that stand out. This this illustration rare Eevee is very nice. This set introduces a bunch of new Pokemon, but the main number one card in this set, of course, the special illustration rare Greninja EX, which is sitting at, I think, a little above $600 right now as a PSA 10. So this card right here is really carrying this set in terms of popularity. Now, as far as sealed product goes, you can get pretty much all of the ETBs and the booster boxes for less than $200. So none of these sets are like Sun and Moon, where you have a booster box that's $2,000, like Team Up. They are all still very much affordable. And Twilight Masquerade, ironically, is one of the more expensive booster boxes, and I don't necessarily think it's because of the Greninja EX. I mean, that definitely helps, but I think it's also a print run thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that this set had more of a limited print run than the rest. That's what I'm hearing. I'm not sure. Like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it is a print run issue, which is driving up the cost of these booster boxes, maybe more than the cards in it. I don't know. But for right now, we're going to put Twilight Masquerade on the bottom of the A tier. Up next, we're going to cover Shrouded Fable, and boy, I'm not sure if I should put this in the next to last spot or the last spot. I'm kind of conflicted because Shrouded Fable is it's pretty bad in terms of having chase cards. Let's take a look here. Shrouded Fable. So yeah, let me pull it up here. You have a couple of OG Pokemon like Houndoom, Horsey, but I think that's it as far as OGs. Yeah, there's a ton of new Pokemon, and like I said, illustrations are amazing in all of these sets, but the set does not have a mainstream Pokemon, a super popular Pokemon to really pull us in. So as much as I like these new Pokemon and the illustrations, I just can't reason to put this any higher than the B tier. So I think I'm going to put it slightly above Scarlet and Violet base. Up next we have Stellar Crown, and I'm going to put that right above Shrouded Fable. You know what? I'm going to put that actually above Paradox Rift. Yeah, Stellar Crown can be the top of the B tier. If we take a look at the cards, you'll see why. It does have the amazing illustration rare Bulbasaur and Squirtle. I think those two cards are really carrying the set, along with that Rainbow Border Terrapagos EX that is also definitely a chase card. And this was the first set, I think, to introduce the rainbow borders that we're now seeing in the Scarlet and Violet era. So, yeah, I would say this Stellar Crown, as long as it has that Bulbasaur and Squirtle, is definitely the top of the B tier for right now. Up next, we have Surging Sparks, which is a newly released set, just came out, and it is a Pikachu-themed set. So let's take a look here. It does have a couple of very expensive cards. When I did the most recent top 10 video of this set, I was kind of surprised how much these cards were selling for. But yeah, you got a couple of full art Pikachu cards. You got this Lysia's Appeal, that's going to be very expensive. The Milotic EX, the Pikachu EX special illustration, and the Latias EX special illustration are going to command quite a premium when they're graded for sure. So yeah, it's definitely a Pikachu themed set, which isn't a bad thing. It's got a couple other cards in it. So Surging Sparks we're going to put just beneath Paldan Fates. I have high hopes for this set. I think it's definitely going to be a top 5 set within the Scarlet and Violet era. Which leads me to the final set that hasn't been released yet, but I'm still going to put on the tier list. It is the Prismatic Evolutions, and I think that this set is too big to fail. It's going in the S tier with Scarlet and Violet 151. It's a subset full of special illustration evolutions. I mean, how could this set fail? The hype is just through the roof. Everybody wants to get their hands on the newest special illustration rare Umbreon EX or the Espeon EX. The last set to feature evolutions like this was Evolving Skies, and we know how that turned out. Ended up being one of the greatest sets of all time. Not saying this will be, but it's going to be tough to mess up this set. Is all I'm saying. I think that these Elite Trainer boxes are selling out like crazy already, and this set's not even due to release until like middle of July. So yeah, S tier sets from Scarlet and Violet I think will be 151 and the Prismatic Evolutions. And I think the 3 worst sets in Scarlet and Violet would have to be Paradox Rift, Shrouded Fable, and Scarlet and Violet base. What would your tier list be for the Scarlet and Violet era so far? Leave your list in the comments below. I'll be reading each of them. So thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you thought of the list, and I'll catch you all in my next one.